everyone, it's Linda Hayes, and today I want to talk about international investing. We had some people we know ask us about buying land in a country that we had never looked at before. And so I want to go through some of the things I would look at before I decide whether to invest in another place other than where you live, because there are a lot of different factors you need to look at. So now I want to do a little introduction in case you haven't seen any of my videos before. So I've been investing in real estate since 2006 in Edmonton, Alberta, where I'm from in Canada. And I decided to do some international investing for two reasons. One is that I travel a lot and I wanted to be able to go somewhere in the winter where I didn't have to pay for a hotel. So I was looking for something that I could potentially Airbnb when I wasn't there. And then the second reason is I really wanted to invest in a different currency and a different market. So in Canada, of course, we have Canadian dollars, and I was first looking in the U.S. so I could get U.S. dollars. I eventually landed on Belize, and we easily can get U.S. dollars there because rentals are in U.S. dollars, as is buying real estate. And so in terms of my first property in Belize, I bought it in 2020, and then I spent all of 2021 living in Belize. And this year I've been back and forth a lot, although I am planning to settle in Belize permanently in the future. So the first thing I want to talk about is the difference between the reasons people purchase property in other countries. So some people really want to live in another place. A lot of people in Belize have moved there because they don't like politics where they're from. And if you are going to try to relocate to another country, I recommend you go there and rent for a few months before you buy anything. So I have some friends that actually sold everything they had in Canada. I met them in Belize. They bought land, they were building a property, and after spending a few months in the country, they were actually renting a place while their house was being constructed. They decided it was not a place for them. It's more of an amenity situation where they really miss the amenities of the big city and they're living on an island, so it's a lot different. But if they had stayed there first, it would have been better. And in their case, they did get their money back, what they paid in when they sold their property, but that's not always going to be the case. So you definitely want to make sure that you spend time in a place that you're considering living. Now, what if you're an investor? In my case, I didn't really need to know if I liked living on the island where I bought my property in Belize. What I instead did is I checked to make sure the numbers made sense. I'm an accountant, so this is what I do, but make sure you do a budget. You also need to check if you're planning to do short-term rentals, what are the Airbnb or any other rental rules for long-term? How friendly is the government to landlords versus tenants? You know, those kind of things. So a lot of different states in the U.S. had eviction moratoriums during COVID. So all those things are things you want to consider if you're doing investment. And then just look at what rents are going for in the area you're considering investing. So you can use a software called AirDNA if you're looking for Airbnb type short-term rentals. AirDNA actually tracks all the properties in a place to tell you what kind of rents, what kind of occupancy there is, and that kind of thing. And so I have examples of research I've done specific to Belize on my Belize presentations, but here I'm just talking more generally. Any area you want to invest, if it's short-term rental, look at AirDNA. If you're thinking of doing long-term rentals, talk to some property managers or go into their websites and see what things rent for. In Edmonton, where I live, in Canada, we have Kijiji, so I can go on there, look at the type of property I have, and assess what different rents would be. So make sure you do a budget whenever you're doing an investment property. So if you're buying for investment purposes or even to live, there's a few things you want to check. So how many tourists and expats are in the location? You may want to have familiar people around you, and if it's for rental, you certainly want to have people to rent to. And you can look at what other companies and investors are doing. So if you find a developer, for example, in a specific country that you're looking at, and they have properties available on Airbnb, you can go into AirDNA and actually look at what the occupancy and what the average daily rate is. So I have some examples of that in some of my Belize presentations on my channel that you can look at, where it shows how I do rental research to see how properties do in different locations. The other thing, though, is don't buy without visiting first. A lot of people that are selling things will mislead and not necessarily disclose things. So you actually want to be there in person to actually see what it is that you're buying. And then the last thing, just as a big picture thing, is can you get to the location easily? So make sure you check the flight. Not only do you need to go there, but your guests need to get there. So what is it like? And I want to show an example of how I looked this up. So I find the best way to look up flights is using Google Flights because it'll actually highlight all airlines for you so you can check what the options are. So I have a search in here. I live in Edmonton, but Calgary's our hub airport in the province. So I'm saying, what if I wanted to go from Calgary to Dominica? And Dominica is the country in the Caribbean that some people were asking us about buying land. And so I just picked some days coming up in August to see what the options were to fly into Dominica. And you can kind of see here the best departing flights. It's American here. They also show a United option, and the price is extremely expensive at $2,600 Canadian round trip, and it's like over 22 hours to fly with 2 stops. So if I contrast that to a popular tourist destination like Cancun, just as an example, I'll show you what that looks like, just because then we'll have a base case of what a flight would look like going from Calgary. So to Cancun, a flight round trip right now is $1,036 nonstop, and that's on WestJet, and you can even fly through United or Alaskan, and also there's just one stop there, and the price is around the same amount. So that is kind of what you're looking at. Now, I didn't want to buy property in Mexico because of the ownership rates being quite different, and I like Belize because it's English speaking. So I'm going to show you what happens when I search for Belize in here. Now, this is going to be different depending where you're going from, obviously. So you want to do this search for wherever you live. I often fly through Calgary, so that's why I'm doing Calgary. So if I do Calgary to Belize City, the same period of time, you can see there's a United flight, one stop, and it's $1,165. And you'll find when I'm looking at Belize, there are direct flights from Calgary in the winter time through WestJet, but they don't fly in the off season. So at least for Belize, I can fly there any time of year, and it's under 8 hours with that stopover. So this is actually one of the primary reasons I decided to investigate Belize as a possible investment choice. The other one I looked at was Panama, but it was always 2 stops and a lot longer for me. So I decided to look at Belize more in detail, do my rental budgets, basically just based on the access alone, and also a lot of other advantages such as English being the official language, but that was one of the primary things. If I can get here easily, that means other tourists can as well. And Belize City actually has direct flights from many U.S. cities every single day. So from Houston and Miami, you can fly in every day. So that's one of the big advantages of that market. And so that's what you want to check for whatever market you're considering investing in. Another thing you need to look at are what the property rights are and what the government is like. So you want to make sure you're able to get title to the property you're buying. So there are some countries that have leases on land, or they may make you buy your property in combination with a local person. I prefer, obviously, to have freehold title, just like we do in Canada, and that is how Belize is. Also, check if the government is stable. So in some countries, the government might be able to just expropriate your land. That would not be a good thing, obviously. So you want to have some information about what the government's like, what the bylaws are, what the property tax is like. So if the property tax is really high, it may not be great from an investment, but if it's really low, it means they may not have very good infrastructure, which is the case in Belize. So you have to just know what you're getting into before you buy any property. Now I wanted to give a few more tips if you're buying real estate in another country. So make sure you get a survey done for the property. Make sure you have road access. Don't assume that there should be that, because obviously where I buy in Edmonton, I always have road access. But in other countries, that might not be the case. Same thing with realtors. We have licensing in Canada for realtors, and same in the US. Belize does not, and many other countries don't either. So if a realtor is not licensed, it means they do not need to disclose things to you, things like conflicts of interest. Who is the seller of the property? Are they only selling their own listings because they want to double end the commission? These are questions that you can ask, like who is the seller? Is this your own listing? You can also check for other properties in the same building or the same property from other real estate brokers that might be listed at a cheaper price that you weren't told about because it's not that specific agent's listing. So make sure you do a lot of your own research before you're buying a property. So that's just a summary of some of the things you want to look at when evaluating a market. There's many more, but I want to give you some other resources to look at. So the first one is the Real Estate Radio Guides, and many of you, if you've been following my Belize journey, know that this is how I found out about Belize, but I want to show you what's on their website that you can look at. So here is the Real Estate Guides website, and if you click on markets here at the top, you can see all the different investment markets, and they have quite a few here. And if I click international markets, you can see the ones that I chose to look at. So here are the three that they've listed. So I looked up Belize and Panama and realized Belize was a lot closer from a flight perspective for me than Panama. So when I click on the Belize market, you can see all the information they have. So they have things with their radio shows, different reports. They talk about the Belize Real Estate Discovery Tour, which I attended in January 2021. I always recommend people to do that, and I wish it was available before I bought, but because of COVID, it had been shut down. And so you can see there's a ton of information here if you're looking at this particular market. And then they do have a lot of other events. So if you click on the events tab, you can kind of see different investment tours that they have. So you can see the Belize Discovery trip. They also have one in Jacksonville coming up. So lots of different events there that you can look at. So now I just wanted to show an excerpt from my website here. On the tab called International Investing, you can see a bunch of information about some markets that ECI Developments are into. So they have a lot of great information about Belize and about Panama and some of their other markets as well, because they develop in Panama, Nicaragua, Belize, and a few other markets also. So if you're interested in finding more about some of this information, click on one of these links because it'll put you in touch with a lot more information than what I'm providing here. So I hope this video has helped, and if you have any questions, please make sure you reach out.